Poverty, an ill that has haunted the world for millennia. In 2012, nearly 100 million people lived in poverty in China. In just 8 years, China reduced this number to 0. Every person has a unique story to tell. This experience belongs to China, but the wisdom learned belongs to the world.
We are talking about in hundreds of millions of world population.
It's an unparalleled success. It's the greatest anti-poverty accomplishment in history.
Tibet, the world's third pole, has an average elevation of more than 4,000 meters. At the roof of the world, nature offers unparalleled beauty and extreme hardship. This ancient place inspires reverence for the tenacity of life. It's minus 13 degrees Celsius on the Tibetan plateau, breathing air that has half the oxygen of that at sea level. Bootsering gathers his yaks and heads for the pastures. He has sung this herder's song for nearly 50 years. This land and these yaks were once his entire world. Bootsering grew up in a village of 9 families called Sangdu. When he was 24, he married Drala. They had 2 sons who carried on the herding tradition, and the family relied on their 6 yaks for their livelihood. It would take Bootsering a day just to reach the nearest road. For miles in every direction, there was nothing but barren mountains. In 2012, there were still 100 million people living in absolute poverty in China. Most of them lived in isolated villages such as Bootsering's, where adverse natural conditions, inadequate roads, or some other combination of factors made development difficult. Who were they? Where did they live? Why were they poor?
全面建成小康社会，一个也不能少。共同富裕路上，一个也不能掉队。
In 2013, China initiated an unprecedented project called Targeted Poverty Alleviation. Over the next year and a half, workers traveled to villages and knocked on doors to create a profile of every poor person in the country. In 2015, the reason for Bootsering's poverty was identified as a lack of access to roads. The solution tailor-made for his situation was to leave the mountains.
Tuduna la mi pom wi zi zoge tang so sugyon ki ra ta la kwa cham a tong wa ter roni yinde ta sa sha long ko tra bi haleli ta chu na ta teli kyo ji ma san ki su hyu chen ne.
Butsering was given a 75 square meter house in the new settlement. Paid for by the local government, the settlement houses 16 families and is easily accessible, just half an hour's ride from Nachu city. But how would Butsering make a living here? Next to the settlement lies a newly opened modern animal farm. It's a poverty reduction project invested in and built by the local government. Milk, yogurt, and butter provide ample revenue. Over the next 5 years, it will employ more than 800 people. Butsering, his wife, and their youngest son also work here. At the center, Drala milks yaks, while their son operates loaders. Butsering looks after the yaks, just as before.
Ta tsowa ina yergi ta pe misili ki yergi tur son ta rani tina ta gawo te kibo.
It's December, and time for the annual Animal Product Fair. Butsering and his colleagues are bringing butter and Tibetan cheese. It's the biggest offline trade platform in the area. This year's fair has attracted more than 240 exhibitors from 86 towns. Butsering's milk products are selling out fast. Over 5 days, the center sells products for 738,000 yuan. Butsering receives his dividend of 2,400 yuan on the spot. This is the first time the family's annual income has exceeded 100,000 yuan. What's more, Butsering's herd has grown from 6 to 600 animals. But the more things change, the more they stay the same. He still herds the same yaks by the same eternal mountains.
Giving people opportunities for decent work is a key to eliminating poverty. It is literally a case of enabling people to work themselves out of poverty.
People are getting jobs. In the local areas, the infrastructure is being built up.
Giving them jobs, giving them livelihood.
With a stable job comes peace of mind. More than 90% of China's registered impoverished population has received some form of employment assistance. Often, the new job is at their doorstep. At the other side of the world lies Tanzania, with its rich wildlife and vast savannas. The abundant sunlight here sustains some of the world's biggest sisal plantations. Sisal is a tropical crop that yields large amounts of stiff natural fiber, irreplaceable in maritime industries and many other fields. Majuto Chitema is the head of fiber production at this Chinese-run sisal plantation. The rainy season has just ended, and he has hired 60 workers to harvest sisal leaves. The leaves are then moved to the workshop for processing. In Redera Township, the plantation has created more than 10,000 local jobs. Recently, the plantation spent $1 million building 60 apartments for its workers, including Chitema.
This will be my historical event. I feel proud to be closely engaged in this industry. I see the potential of how I can support this industry and make my country develop more.
Both China and the rest of the world are developing industries according to local conditions. 8,000 kilometers to the east, China is using industry in new ways to reduce poverty. There, more than 100,000 private companies are leading the poverty alleviation effort, supported by the government. Before sunrise, Chen Zhidong is already heading out to the sea. Though he grew up close to the coast, he spent most of his life as a farmer. It was a hard life. 6 years ago, he found work offshore, and at 31, he boarded a boat for the first time.
我从小到大是不出海的，第一次我下来以后浪非常大，全都吐出来了，吃一顿早餐都全吐出来了。
Chen Zhidong works for Haifeng, which owns the biggest golden pomfret fish farm in Asia. The circles on the water are 600 deep-sea cages. Below the surface, each cage holds nearly 50,000 kilograms of fish. Chen Zhidong's job is to maintain the cages. A cold front is coming, and he still has to change the nets in 5 more cages.
那个网脏了，一定要把它换了，你不换它鱼会缺氧的。
Haifeng is a leading business in Linggao County, and its fish farm is the biggest business-led poverty alleviation project in the area. Impoverished households can invest their government relief funds in the company for an annual dividend of 15%. Chen Zhidong invested in the company 3 years ago. More than 8,000 poor households in Linggao have invested more than 60 million yuan in Haifeng. This way, the poor households and the company share the risks and the profits.
是我们贫困户入股有分红了，每一年都有了，打到卡里啊，肯定要希望它好啊，好了才有好收益啊，你才有红包。
Chen Zhidong is happy with life as a shareholder. His co-workers Wang Xiaoke, Chen Shanglong and Cheng Yongyang are also from registered impoverished households in Linggao County. As with Chen Zhidong, the annual dividends alleviate their economic pressure. After work, Chen picks up his children at school. Though he could have left town to work in the city years ago, he chose to stay with his family. Chen has 4 daughters. In August, his wife gave birth to a son.
老大叫陈金慧，老二叫陈秀楠，老三陈秀琴，老四陈永欢，老五陈永峰。
The children are a blessing to the family, but having so many is a big responsibility. Chen is not worried, as the sea is giving him ample returns. The money the poor households invested in the company has been put to work, and the fish farm is still expanding. This year, The fish farm yielded 14,000 tons of golden pomfret, generating 300 million yuan in output. Lingao County lies in northwest Hainan province and used to be one of China's impoverished coastal counties. But by developing its industry, this city of 500,000 people has turned things around.
推动脱贫地区特色产业提质增效，实现书写式扶贫向造写式扶贫的转变。
Each of the 832 counties in China that have escaped poverty had at least one major characteristic industry.
Primero es liberar fuerza productiva, estimular el desarrollo.
So we have to provide them with income generating activities like, production, employment, programs.
In Bangkok, a local saying captures Thai people's attitude towards life. Jai yen yen. Take it easy. This may be one of the most laid-back countries in the world, but the people here also yearn for faster development. Surasit Thanatung, 62, is one of Thailand's leading Belt and Road Initiative researchers. His research focuses on China-Thailand cooperation. In 2017, he joined the National Research Council of Thailand. This is the only official think tank headed directly by the Prime Minister, and its research directly influences Thailand's development strategy. Surasit heads its Thai-Chinese Strategic Research Center, where his latest research focuses on China's poverty alleviation effort. This month, Surasit has made frequent visits to the Thai-Chinese Rayong industrial zone. Of the 1,300 workers at this Chinese factory, 90% are Thai. The factory produces 1,300 megawatts of solar cells and 1,250 megawatts of photovoltaic modules every year.
Green development is not already Thai direction, but it's really global direction. We have to think what really the most important green energy, so we are focusing.
Surasit's focus is on China's solar power industry. Nowadays, China is collecting energy from the sky to create prosperity on the ground. In areas unsuitable for agriculture, the government invests in solar power to fight poverty. Once connected to the grid, the profit will go directly to poor households. In hilly Fujian province, solar panels resemble terraced rice paddies. On ponds in Zhejiang province, people breed fish below floating solar farms. This 26,000 megawatt solar power project benefits almost 60,000 impoverished villages. It's winter, and the harvested terrace fields of the Hani people are at their most beautiful. By carving in hospitable mountain slopes into small plateaus of arable land, the Hani people have created a marvel of traditional agriculture. Gao and her husband are clearing the last field. Terrace fields have low yields, only 4.5 tons of rice per hectare, or half the yield of fields in the plains. Gao's family only has a quarter of a hectare of land, and 1 year of hard work barely covers their own needs. Many people in Ajerkur village leave to find work elsewhere, leaving behind many empty nests. Of the village's 65 households, 23 have been registered as impoverished, meaning that their annual income per capita is below 2,800 yuan.
在外面打工的话，每天都是风吹日晒，生活比较艰辛。哎，反正是为了小孩，为了家庭，我还是愿意支撑。
3 years ago, Sun Yat-sen University designed a tourism-based poverty alleviation plan for Ajaka village. To follow up on the plan, the local government sent an official to live in the village.
第一次见到这个村子的时候，很漂亮，能够感受到很浓厚的那种哈尼族的文化氛围的一个地方，但是同时也很心痛。村民较为冷漠，我跟他们打招呼，没人理我。
The plan Wang Ranxuan was to carry out aimed to use the scenic fields and village to attract tourists. He went door to door, visiting all 65 households to convince them to join.
小伙子在外面打工啊？是都没回来？没有。你到过来是？最开始我们跟他们说我们要做旅游，要做脱贫，村民最开始是不相信的，他们不知道什么是旅游，感觉就像是你就是骗子一样。
那时候我就不愿意，我还是出去打工好了，因为出去打工的话，比在这里上班的这个钱赚得多。
再高点，你先把这边敲了，把那边降下来一点。哥，你们长官前面的，不，长官前面走的。
Village meetings are Wang's favorite way of getting things done. Every major decision in the village is made collectively. If they're to develop tourism, the village must be well kept and maintain its traditional Hani style.
村子里面开小卖部这个事情，有个上面的公司的报备，统一才能看调过，墙上这些不能乱推乱画呢。到这儿给联系些，有联系些可以给我们翻译。好，我认到，20我认了。我们先加人，以后公司效益好，不讲加人还要加钱。哎呀，好。加钱嘛是加人，好。加不加人嘛是加钱啦。好，可以。好，可以，好。
As the Ajaka plan progresses, Wang's day gets busier.
5点钟之前做好5点。
The villagers use their fields or traditional houses to buy shares in a collectively owned company. They study hospitality and manage it themselves.
大家好，我叫高美华，欢迎你们来我们阿泽克做客。
有锅做的地方就有了家，有了家就有了锅做，我还高兴。
做到了吗？
Developing tourism has increased the income of each household. Under century-old trees, a table is being set. The Hani street feast, which traditionally serves to share the year's bounties and pray for good harvests, has become a favorite among the tourists. In just 2 years, the Ajaka plan has lifted the village out of poverty.
看着它一点一点的变好，我觉得我是非常有成就感的。我只是全国千千万万驻村干部当中普通的一位，我们八仙过海各显神通，一点一点都为了群众的脱贫不断努力着。
People like Wang, who visit every person in every village, are an important part of China's unique method for reducing poverty.
和老百姓同吃同住，共谋扶贫之责，共同落实政策。
Really beautiful way of translating a national aspiration into local effort by each person, you know, by each community.
Talking to the people, understanding what they need, and then develop your program.
Over the last 8 years, nearly 10 million workers, including more than 3 million resident cadres, have moved to remote regions and devoted themselves to breathing life into previously barren lands. The day of the first frost is busy for Tsai Ya-ling and her husband. 9 years ago, they left the city they'd worked in for many years to set up a cooperative with 300 people from their hometown, making dried persimmons. Tsai Ya-ling has perfected the art. Earthen jars, time, and just the right temperature are the secret to a sweet product. Dried persimmons are a traditional New Year's snack in northern China, as their Chinese name sounds like a New Year's blessing. But the 2020 season was anything but blessed.
为全力做好新型冠状病毒感染的肺炎疫情防控工作，有效切断病毒传播途径，全市城市公交、地铁暂停运营。
The COVID-19 pandemic hit sales and local incomes hard.
满仓库堆压的6、7、8吨的货，我真的从内心讲，我当时真的是很愁。
Tsai could never have imagined that help would come from a city 1,300 kilometers away. This is Hangzhou, China's e-commerce capital, a town where cash is out. Every night, live streams generate tens of millions of orders for all kinds of products. More than 80 million people follow Via's live streams. Her job is to help her followers identify the best products on the market. She has recorded more than 100 live streams supporting poor farmers.
疫情期间的话，很多地方的扶贫产品就滞销了，然后它一滞销，可能老百姓1年的成果就打水漂了。所以我觉得对于脱贫攻坚的影响太大了，然后在想我能做点什么。
In the summer of 2020, Via traveled to Shanxi. In Fuping County, she saw Tsai's production line up close.
包的，而且每个包了3、4颗，饱满的一具核桃仁。
比如说他们的晾晒跟别的不一样，花4、9天时间，你想等待这个过程，直接出糖霜，这糖霜是无添加的，到现在是完成它的丰收在我手里，但还没有最后一道，还要销售。
Via decided to promote the persimmons on her live stream.
真的很难，真的很难。我就盼这一切盼到好几个日夜。
单位来给大家推荐当地的好货，然后今天我们直播间有20多样产品，这个是糖霜，这个不是坏掉的。
After one live stream, Tsai's co-op sold all their 7.5 tons of persimmons.
薇娅来我们之后，好像给我看到了希望，咱们不能靠薇娅呀，咱们还得靠咱们自己呀。
6 months after the live stream, Tsai went to Hangzhou to learn from Via.
雅玲姐来我直播间跟你拍卖吧。雅玲姐，好久不见啦！好久不见，来怎么？今天穿的好好看啊！请坐。它的东西很好，但没有人看见。我觉得我们就要通过直播间发现一些有好的东西。我现在接触到的产品，目的从以前不标准变成标准了，是一个大的台阶，但是现在还缺乏一点，把它打造成爆款。就从农产品到商品，再 我希望为扶贫做直播，不是一锤子买卖，然后让产品真正变成市场上有竞争力的一个商品。
Following Via's suggestions, Tsai upgraded her product line and standardized her products. Persimmons are sorted by weight, and the packaging features the unique earthen jars. Finally, she even set up a live stream studio of her own.
大家晚上好，欢迎你们来到我们的直播间。今天晚上我给大家带来的是我们陕西富平的这个瓮藏柿饼，
外边是软糯香甜，里边是酥脆清香，
对，
特别好吃。不但有柿饼，还有我们这个柿饼加核桃。
对
啊，我个人特别喜欢吃，两个都喜欢。
With the development of China's Internet Plus strategy, e-commerce has reached all of China's 832 national-level impoverished counties, bringing them closer to the global market.
E-commerce is a good example where a lot of economic activity has developed.
Allows for a small community in a remote area to actually reach out to a customer base around the world.
In every corner of the world, China's experience using e-commerce to fight poverty is changing lives. The tiny smartphone has become a powerful weapon in the fight against poverty and an ambassador to a better life. To 8-year-old Adila, going to school is a dream come true. She'll never forget the first time she picked up a textbook.
स्कूल के करीब रहने वाले बच्चे यहाँ मुफ्त तालीम हासिल करते हैं। मुझे बहुत खुशी होती है।
To most of the world's poor children, education is their best shot at a better life. East of Pakistan, across the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, lies the Daliang Mountains. Jin Shin is 14 years old. As with other youth of the E people, life at high altitudes has endowed him with an impressive stamina.
我们那个坡真的太陡了，全部都是往上的。在家乡，我觉得看什么风景，或者看着看着就不知道就爬上顶，就跑上很远的地方了。
Jin Shin is the head of his family. His mother, Jika Iwu Mo, is in ill health, and 4 surgeries have cost the family dearly. But no matter how hard life gets, she'd never take her children out of school. Like many others of her generation, Jika Iwu Mo never went to school. Liangshan was one of the last places in China to abolish slavery, and the towering mountains took away any hope the people here had of going to school. But today, getting an education is no longer the stuff of dreams. In 2018, Jin Shin left Longjiago village to go to middle school in the town of Lugu. The school waived all fees and gave him a 1,000 yuan annual boarding allowance.
冕宁县卢沟中学校升旗仪式现在开始。
With 5,000 students in 96 classes, this is the biggest middle school in Lugu town. As a part of China's effort to improve education in poor areas, the school has undergone many upgrades over the last few years and can now provide the kids with a well-rounded education. The school has a particularly strong boxing program. Its team has won the Sichuan Team Championship for 20 years in a row and produced several athletes for the provincial team. Yuan Wei-Ke is the school's boxing instructor. Having trained more than 200 youth boxers, he's impressed by Jin Xin's grit and stamina. Every year, the provincial team visits the school to scout for talent. If Jin Xin is selected, it would open the door to many new opportunities. For the last year, while preparing for the tryouts, Jin Xin has made the mountains his training ground.
一个星期训练6天，不训练1天，别人就比你厉害1天。你不练，人家在练，他就比你强。
The moment he's been waiting for has arrived. The tryouts.
红脚选手金星。
In his eagerness, Jin missed several punches in the first round. He has one last chance. Jin is a big fan of Mike Tyson. His favorite quote by his idol is, "You never lose until you actually give up." To kids in the poorest regions around the world, the path to a better life is a rugged one. Perhaps a country's true purpose is to protect these children.
Schools need to offer knowledge, but also to nurture talents, to expand their horizons, but also to improve their lives.
It is a necessity that if you want to, in a sustainable manner, alleviate poverty, you need to focus also a lot on education.
In its fight against poverty, China has upgraded 108,000 schools, and a national campaign to prevent dropouts has seen 200,000 students resume their education. Everyone who's from here knows that Zheng Kaiyi loves to sing.
我就是基本上就跟打那公鸡似的，我总喊嗓子那时候。
However, his health long prevented him from singing. He and his sister both have the Kershan disease, a heart disease that's endemic to this area. When a patient has an episode, their heart can fail in just 2 days. There was an outbreak of the disease in Zheng's hometown when he was 7 years old.
肚子疼的受不了，完了我母亲就是一摸，她说这样没有了，快直接就扛着我就是上那个卫生所了，完了说是昏睡了2天2夜。
The government set up a Kershan Disease Research Institute at Harbin Medical University. Sun Shuchu, 56, currently heads research at the institute. This exhibition records the Chinese government's 70-year-long fight against the disease.
这是49年到50年冬的时候啊，这个东北、西北爆发这个柯山病，2年呢就这个发病就4000多例，死亡了2000多例，病死率高达50%以上。
The team that Sun currently heads has spent decades searching for the cause of the disease, collecting samples of local crops, and simulating the climate of the year the disease struck to culture molds. After screening them using modern gene sequencing techniques, they finally identified the culprit, a type of mold caused by improper storage of grain. In order to monitor the development of the disease, Sun's team makes frequent visits to the affected areas to talk to patients. The disease caused irreversible damage to Zheng's body. His heart is weak, and he's at constant risk of going into shock. This disease destroyed Zheng's dreams of becoming a singer.
我挺黑这个心脏病，上初三吧，我见我要管找演员，到那去了，这老师说的，哎呦，一听这歌曲，那没啥说到，一听伤了。你回去等消息。过了1个多月了，班主任告诉我了，开业了，说你的身体，哎呀，有点亏了。当时我就哭了，我说这。
In 2005, Kershan disease patients were entered into the National Medical Assistance System, entitling them to free medication from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Over the last 3 years, the government has increased allowances for sufferers and offers personalized treatment for each case.
地方病跟这个贫穷就像一个硬币的2面，因病致贫，因病返贫。 单单从医学上的努力它是有限的。精准扶贫以后呢，它都能得到全面的照顾，一个也不少的这样这个意义是非常大的。
After 3 years of prevention and treatment work, there are no more Kershan disease areas in China, and former affected areas have recovered. After many years of medication, Zheng's disease is under control. After this harvest season, he plans to contract out his small plot of land and follow his childhood dream. At 51, he has finally begun his musical studies. The fields have once more become Zheng's stage. He says that now, he only has one regret in life.
在那个年代里，我妈得了柯山病，拉扯着我们5个兄妹5个呀，特别不容易。她知道我喜欢唱歌，一直希望能看见我在舞台上演出，但一直没有如愿。
什么时候也不能忘咱的妈妈。
In today's China, poverty alleviation through healthcare provides 99.9% of poor people with basic medical insurance and covers up to 80% of the cost of hospital stays. the rural poor can receive special treatment for 30 serious diseases, and every village has a clinic and a doctor. Before 1949, the average life expectancy in China was 35 years. Now, this number is 77.3.
In order to have a wealthy population, this population means to be healthy in the first place.
Nothing is more precious than the life of the people and their health.
Going forward, investing in health will be a priority for all countries.
Eight years of hard work has expedited economic development in China's 832 impoverished counties and guaranteed compulsory education, basic medical care, and housing for their residents. By the end of 2020, all of these counties had been lifted out of poverty, assigning absolute poverty to the history books. From relocating people to developing industries, from e-commerce to education, China's experience shows the benefits of its system and the wisdom of its people. It has become a measure of a country's governance capability and a template for the rest of the world to follow.
China very consciously said, eliminating poverty is the primary goal of our strategy.
Porque ponen por encima de otro interés, ponen por encima la solución de los problemas puntuales de la población más necesitada.
Xi Jinping ha sido un hombre muy consecuente con la lucha contra la pobreza.
He has the resources and he has the determination to fulfill this promise.
There are lessons to be learned, why it worked, that then can be transformed into theories that can be applied in other places.
The systematic approach that other parts of the world will require.
It is something no one has ever seen any country on earth do before.
هو أحد أعظم إنجازات العصر الحديث.
So this is the most important contribution.
In Tanzania, Chitema is studying to take over the plantation. In Lingao County, Chen Jidong's eldest daughter turns 11. In Fuping County, Tsai Ya-ling is seeing another bumper harvest. In Fuyu County, Zheng Kai-yi is finally performing on stage. In Bangkok, Surisit's Research Institute has released a new book, Chinese Key Words, Targeted Poverty Alleviation, in Chinese and Thai. Eliminating poverty is an ideal shared by all, though often far apart. On this path towards a better life, we will never be alone.
没有哪一个国家能在这么短的时间内实现几亿人脱贫。这个成绩属于中国，也属于世界。